Welcome to the Ass Podcast. I think we're live. Nick, are we live? Everything's good?
We're live.
Whoa. Nice. Okay, guys, welcome back to the Ass Podcast. Ass Podcast, if you do not know what that stands for, that is Animation Success Stories Podcast. If this is your first time listening and or watching, what we do here is we talk to animation industry professionals. We hear their story. We find out how they got to where they are in the industry right now. We hear about the hills that they had to climb, the rivers they had to traverse, the shit they had to trod through in order to get to where they are today in the industry. Today in the ass. So that's what we refer to it as, Reid. I hope you're okay with that, in the ass. Hope you're not easily.
Totally.
This is 90% of our podcast is ass jokes. Today in the ass is Reid Monninger. He is a background designer on Disenchantment, which of course everybody knows as the new Matt Groening show. He's relatively new to the industry. This is one of his, I think, his first or second year in the industry, and we're going to hear all about how he got there and exactly what he needed to do in order to get this position in the industry. So Reid, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Sabrina, Brian, and Nick on this podcast.
Happy to be here. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is an honor. I'm really humbled to be talking to you guys right now.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, seriously, like, you sure you want to be interviewed?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think, our audience is a mix of a lot of different people, and we have a lot of young listeners that are looking to break into the industry, even some people that are a little older looking to break into the industry. In fact, on one of the shows I worked on, we just had an intern who switched careers in her mid, I think, or late 30s and decided to do animation. And, she was an intern.
Never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late. So we have people of all different age groups listening and watching, and it's really good to have a fresh perspective on, on how to get to where you are in the industry today. So somebody that's a little newer and a little greener, it's really fun to hear from people of that level as well. So we're excited to hear your story, Reid.
Yeah, I'm excited to share with you guys. Where would you like me to start? Just
we're just gonna sit here in silence. You can
just let me just start. Like, okay.
We'll start where we always start. So the way we do this podcast is we have a handful of questions that we always ask, but we'll go on a million different tangents throughout. But there's usually, like 5 or 6 questions that we stick to. And the first one that we always ask our guest is, what was your first animation memory? What was your very first animation memory in your life?
Oh, man. Let me think. I think that a lot of it is just like Saturday morning cartoons as a kid, like waking up early, having like some like Eggo French toast and watching watching Rugrats or the Monsters show, or I really like the Beetlejuice show when I was really young. Those are like, I just lived for cartoons as a kid. I had like the VHS tapes of Roger Rabbit. I'd go to Blockbuster and just like pick out any cool looking one I could find and bring it home and just be like so excited.
That's a fun way to do it. So your parents took you over to Blockbuster and you were like, this thing looks cool, and you pointed to a cartoon and they took it home and you watched it.
Yeah, that's how I found like Dragon Ball Z and all those.
Oh yeah, of course. One of the things I discovered that way was My Neighbor Totoro when I was 5. I pointed to it and my mom rented it for me because it was rated G. And then she was shocked that there was like a nude scene in it. He jumped into the bathtub. She was like, "What? I rented this for you?" But she's
I have a bad story as far as that goes, like anime and Blockbuster and stuff. My mom never learned to look at what it was rated, and then there was like this anime once that I like looked at and it looked cool, and I was like, "Mom, can we get that?" And she knew that I loved Sailor Moon and everything. She's like, "Okay," so she got it. Oh my god, it was like an R-rated friggin' anime.
Your mom rented you hentai at age 5? Is that what happened?
It's probably Day of the Overlord or something.
No.
Oh man.
I'll tell you about it later, but it had like some girl on it who like looked like kind of like a Sailor Moon type of character.
Well, that's a Japanese schoolgirl uniform, so that could lead you down a lot of roads.
A lot of different roads, yeah. So Reid, was there anything weird at Blockbuster that you picked out that you watched that a little less conventional than the standard stuff?
I'm trying to think.
What was your favorite stuff to get at Blockbuster?
Well, I loved creepy movies, so I would just kind of pick whatever I could find, like Mars Attacks. I really like Tim Burton stuff a lot.
Oh, nice.
They just have like a weird vibe to them that
It's
just
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. Something about his stuff it's so like, iconic and otherworldly, which is like what I'm drawn to, is just stuff that like teleports me out of like the norm.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of more macabre aesthetic kind of thing, something that's a little bit more on the creepy side. Even as a kid, like 5 and 6 years old, that stuff appealed to you?
Oh yeah, totally. I could not get enough of it. Like I was that kid in kindergarten who would like to go to like Halloween stores and buy the scariest mask I could find. And I mean like a skull with like spikes shooting out all over it that you'd have to order from China, and I'd be like 5 years old. I'd be like, I have to have this. And I remember a very fond memory was scaring a full-grown adult to the point where he fell when I was trick-or-treating, and he was like, I hate Halloween. I hate Halloween. Why do you take me out here? Like to his girlfriend. And I was like, this is
So
the moment.
you scared him until he fell and said he hates Halloween?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, he literally like, and it would be like the same thing every Halloween. I would go and try to find the scariest mask from this like old funky Halloween store that I could find, and I just have a black robe on, pretty much. It would just be like a different mask each year for like up until about 6th grade, when I was like, all right, I want to talk to girls now. This mask thing is working for me.
So did that kind of macabre aesthetic creep into your artwork at all?
Yeah, totally. I would just draw monsters all the time. And Nightmare Before Christmas stood out to me so much because it like combined the cool stylized animation monsters and kind of like made it seem more fun for kids, I guess. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I noticed you said two of the shows you mentioned as your early animation memory were Our Real Monsters and the Beetlejuice show, both macabre and creepy in their own right, for sure. Beetlejuice show is, to be honest, I remember the intro more than the actual show, but I remember really liking it as a kid. The intro was
yeah.
I like the style a lot.
The style is what stood out, I think. It's why I can still picture it perfectly. Shows like Rocko's Modern Life. There's just so many like shows back then that I think took so many risks artistically. Yeah, I wish we would see them today.
Yeah, for sure. I know that was kind of the dawn of the creator-driven show. So a lot of those shows, especially like Rocko and Odd Real Monsters and things on Nickelodeon, were all really, really pushed to their limits because they were creator-driven instead of network-driven, or like driven because of toy sales or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Reid, did you always have a knack for drawing, even as a kid, or was it something that you kind of developed a little bit older? When did you really get into that kind of momentum?
Really, it kind of happened when I was, as long as I can remember, I got into, like, my grandma would give me these, oh
my God.
My roommate pranking me right now.
Nice, that's great. Okay. I just saw somebody with a horse head behind you.
Yeah, that's my, that stuff happens all the time. I bought an inflatable rubber doll so I could put it in my roommates' beds. So when they would just come home and find it, like, this is what I spend my money on.
Well worth it. How many roommates do you have?
I have 2 other roommates right now. Nice. I'm living in like a 4-bedroom house, and we all get like, we've been roommates since I was in art school, so it's just like we get along really well.
You got a lot of camaraderie. You guys just are constantly effing around with each other.
All the time, yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Something tells me you didn't stop buying masks in 6th grade.
Well, you got to get weird ones like the horse head mask. It's just too good. Like,
I got that one.
I think when you're an adult, revert back to your.
Yeah.
That's
sure. Why I'm working in this industry. It's just I'm just like clinging to it.
Sure. So when did you decide that you wanted to make animation your career. So you were watching these cartoons as a kid. You kind of moved through. You were able to draw as far back as you can remember. When did you say to yourself, I want to work in that industry? I want that to be my job.
Well, I knew I always wanted to be an artist since about first grade, but I didn't really know I wanted to work in the industry until probably out of high school, when I took like a break. I went to art high school where I was just like honing my skills as a painter, as a layout artist, not layout like backgrounds, just like, still lives.
What art high school?
I went to LACHSA, the LA County High School for Arts. So it was
I
like,
think I've heard of them. Yeah.
You're a LA local.
yeah. I've always lived in LA near the Pasadena area, pretty much. Kind of got lucky.
Your parents work in the art industry as well? Do they do anything creative, film or art?
Not at all, not remotely. My dad was a doctor, and my mom is a travel agent.
Oh.
So
cool. Did they encourage your art interests?
Thankfully, yes, they did. Yeah, they. My dad I was into pirates as well, because my grandma gave me this Howard Pyle art book when I was a kid of like all of his pirates paintings and like the history of pirates. I just fell in love with like, also the way that he paints. They all kind of look like magical and fantasy-esque. Like they don't seem like something out of real life. They seem like something that you could only imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So like I also like attached myself to that, and I was like, who are these cool characters? And my dad would draw pirate ships on his computer.
Oh, nice.
Way back in like the early 90s, when it was like crappy like hexagon shaped pirate ships, and he would bring them home for me, and I would like love looking at them and just like get inspiration from them to draw my own.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So your dad did a little bit of art on his own as well, even if he didn't do that as a career.
He just kind of dicked around on his computer in his spare time. I think it worked.
What was the name of the artist you said? Somebody Powell?
Howard Pyle.
How do you spell it?
Howard Pyle.
Pyle. I want to see what this guy's stuff looks like.
He does just like really cool pirate paintings. Like you probably would recognize some of them.
Oh yeah, I totally recognize the stuff. This is rad. Ah,
yeah.
Cool. So this is one of your earliest memories of art. You got a Howard Pyle pirate book from your grandmother.
Yeah, I would like pick up, and after that I would just try to get as many pirate books as I could, which also had all this really cool art in them that I wanted to like try to replicate myself and draw.
So that's pretty cool. So an amalgamation of this Howard Pyle stuff plus the macabre sense from like these early cartoons, like you said, Beetlejuice and Our Real Monsters, kind of put together, and that kind of became your art sensibilities as you were growing up.
Yeah, those were like my two favorite things to draw, like just pirate stuff and monster stuff. Really
sick, man. And that's more or less what you drew all the way up until you got to high school. When you were in your art high school, were you still drawing that kind of stuff?
In high school, yeah, I think I took like a little break. In high school, I kind of lost. I think the fact that I was just like always on it, I kind of lost a little bit of the passion. Like I was kind of burnt out by high school. I was just trying to like have fun in that time and figure out what I wanted to do, who I was, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was, doing like figure drawing classes at like age 15. And it was just like a lot.
yeah, I'm sure if you're going to like an art high school specifically to learn how to do art, it's almost the same conundrum of when you're working in the industry, sometimes you get burned out, and when you go home, you don't want to work on your own creative stuff because you're creatively burned out, or your just mind is melted from all the art you were doing all day. So I'm sure it has a similar effect when you're going to an art high school and you're figure drawing at age 15. When you come home, you want to kind of just watch TV a little bit or something.
If I'm not mistaken, too, I know LACHSA out here is one of the very few art high school. I don't even know if any other notorious high schools out here that are art driven, but I know that you actually have to like have a portfolio going into that high school and like get accepted, right? Because I remember like I was in middle school and someone was like, you should go to LACHSA and then you should make a portfolio and all that, but you have to get accepted.
Wow.
Yeah. It was really rigorous. I like had to like prepare and like take classes to build my portfolio, and I even had to do like an interview process kind of thing.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting for a high school. You had to get a portfolio together. What did your high school portfolio consist of?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I was big into. I like discovered Games Workshop all of a sudden, and like all I could draw was Warhammer 40,000 stuff. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah.
With that, but I like loved that stuff. In sixth grade, I collected all of like the like Space Marines, and that's so I had like some pieces in there that were incredibly detailed of just like Space Marines and like crazy war scenes. And I also had a few like paintings that I did just to try to show like my range of skills, still lifes, basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think what made me stand out from the other applicants that I came in with is I like also painted my like physical portfolio that I had to carry in. I like painted my name, and like every letter was a different medium, like acrylic, like I used oil, pastels, marker, and I did like a different style for each letter too, and I did like all this detail into it.
Nice. So you had to actually physically drop off the portfolio at the school, and you had basically your name was kind of popping off the page. Every single letter, first and last name, was a different thing.
It was just my first name, and it was like the whole portfolio itself was painted. So like it would be a huge binder, but you would just see my name in like big colorful letters.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Advice for people who like either have children now that like want to study and to grow up to be animators, or or they're about that age of getting into high school or something, and they don't know which high school they want to go to, or because I know that like that's one thing I wish I would have done back in the days. I wish that I went to a high school that was more like art driven, because they don't really exist too often, where like so
I totally agree, because I know a lot of friends that went to art high school. Because when you're like when you're an artist and you're going to a high school, like the art program isn't really like that catered to people who are trying to make a career out of art. Like it's kind of just like, this is just fun arts and crafts kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So do you think you benefited a lot from going to the art high school, Reid? Oh no, Reid, did you freeze?
No.
Oh no. Oh wait, we'll get him back in a second.
This is our first frozen guest so far on Digital Ass.
I know. I mean, that's pretty good. We've done like 5 of these already.
Yeah, we've done like 5. This is our first frozen.
I mean, before I was fucking up, so.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, now you're coming in smooth as a.
I got my internet fixed last week.
Oh, nice.
Were you driving your coworkers crazy?
Oh, Reid.
Well, half the time I just call in. I wouldn't Skype.
Can you hear us, Reid?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I'm not sure what happened. I think you froze for like a minute or two.
Okay, well, I could still hear you guys perfectly the whole time, which is really weird.
Oh, strange. That might happen again. If it happens again, we'll just keep on trucking. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So the question I asked, I'm sure you started answering before we realized you were frozen, was, did it benefit you think, that you went to an art high school rather than the public high school?
I think so, yeah. It definitely gave me that feel of what art is professionally, just treating it professionally. And I got a lot more training early on. I think it also built up some cockiness. And then I went to like art center, and that was just shot down completely.
Okay, so you're an art center guy.
Yeah.
Nice. So how did you transition from well, before I get to that, so in high school, since you went to a specific art high school, while you were in those 4 years, did you kind of narrow down what you wanted to study when you went to college? Was it like, all right, I want to do background layout, I want to do entertainment design, I want to do character design? Did you figure out what you wanted to do then, or was that something later?
Well, later, like in high school, when we were allowed, because at first we just had to, they weren't allowing us to choose our art classes, but later they did, and I chose to try illustration, which was really cool because we got to do more, like we did comic books, posters, more things that are kind of catered towards the animation industry.
Mm-hmm.
just more stuff with narrative too behind it, and also like very stylized things. So I got to like explore style, and that's where I think I had the most fun of like my classes, and that's where like the idea kind of blossomed, but it was still kind of foggy. So out of high school, I went to junior college, and I took night classes at Art Center. And I'm sorry should I stop and wait? Keep going?
No,
Yeah,
totally.
I took night. I wanted to do. At first, I thought it would be really cool because I also was really into science fiction movies, like 2001: Space Odyssey. I really liked the design in Blade Runner.
Yeah,
movies like that. I was getting older. I was just discovering like the internet. Oh my god, I could watch all these movies online. Like know about them before. So it was just like all hitting me. And then I got really big into science fiction, and I was trying to go to Art Center for entertainment design, which is what I thought. But I applied and I tried twice, did not get in. And then eventually they were like, your style is very stylized. I think you'd fit better with illustration. You should try that and gear it towards entertainment, because they do like an entertainment track there that's more focused towards like animation and stuff like that.
So you were saying you tried twice to get into Art Center and you didn't. So was that after high school, or you applied twice and didn't get in? Did you go to any other schools in the meantime, or how long did you have to wait between trying again?
I was in junior college for about 3.5 years.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I stayed there and I got my associates in art.
Okay, cool.
And their programs kind of sucked. It was at Citrus Junior College. They had a good figure drawing class, but like it wasn't anything compared. Like it was felt like I had stepped down from what I was taking at LACHSA almost, at the level of like what they were teaching me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. So you were at the what was the name of the junior college? Uh-oh.
Oh, he froze again.
Citrus.
Is that out here?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I was gonna ask where it was.
You froze again, Reid.
So, Reid, you're frozen again. Just to give you a heads up.
Yeah.
So he'll pop back in a second.
I keep hearing it like citrus, like the fruit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm gonna Google it while we're waiting for him.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in America, our art education when we're in elementary, primary school is very weak compared to when you look at like French and like certain European countries where they have a high degree of like art education in primary years, and their work generally when they become professionals is a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. They're starting them early because they kind of track them into what they're most, interested in.
Right.
So Reid, I was asking before you froze. I was asking the name of the college, and then Nick reminded me it was Citrus. Where is Citrus College? Is that out here in LA?
It's actually in Covina. It's by Azusa. It's kind of way out there. I just went there because I got priority registration.
Oh, nice.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I would have gone to PCC otherwise. It wasn't really like a specific where I was like, ooh, who has better teachers?
Yeah. So while you were in Citrus for the 3.5 years studying art there, did you always have your eyes set on Art Center? Was that a place you always wanted to go and you were going to go in there no matter how long it took?
It was my first choice for sure. Yeah. I went to other like college art conventions, and I also interviewed for Art Institute for a little bit. Did any of you guys go to Art Institute?
I didn't. I think just Nick and
I was gonna bash them, and now I feel bad. So
we bash them all the
No,
time.
bash away.
Yeah, I just knew like the guy giving the tour was like chewing gum and he smelled, and I was like, you don't even care. Like you don't even want to be here. I can tell.
I had a different experience as far as like the representatives go. I had this like gorgeous woman who was I think she pertained mostly to like fashion, but she was gorgeous and like she seemed really passionate and like upbeat, and I was like later down the line I learned now like what kind of people they tried to like put in the where they like advertise the school, like people who like go out and are representatives of the school. I'm like, that's why she got it.
They get the most charismatic people possible to be their recruiters.
Yeah.
you can't hate them. They're so nice that
I still love amazing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they get the smelliest people to be the tour guides.
Well, yeah, the guy just did not care. Like, I could tell he was trying to talk about art like he knew what he was talking about, but this guy, like, totally the last person you would expect to talk about art. He was, I don't know, he just gave off the vibe. Like, if I asked him who, like, Picasso was, he wouldn't have no idea who I was.
So you decided to go over to Art Center after trying twice, not getting in. The third time you got accepted.
Third time, well, they actually diverted me to a different program because I was trying to work on live action film.
Oh,
that was
what you want to do on live action film?
I wanted to design sets like Blade Runner and be a concept artist.
Okay.
And I just really liked space stuff for a while. I went into I saw Alien, and I was just like a huge nerd for space stuff, like Star Wars, all of that. Anything with like that cool futuristic vibe to it.
I hear you.
But now I don't like it as much. It's weird. It was just like a phase, but I still like it. I just don't like it as much as
they diverted you to the illustration program, you said, right?
Yeah, so I totally felt weird when I got there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what was the feeling like? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people in a similar situation that are trying to do one thing, but people keep telling them, hey, you're better suited for this. Hey, you're better suited for this. I feel like that's a common thing when people are trying to find their path, especially if they have one passion that, they might not be perfect for. How did you feel when they were kind of pushing you another direction? Were you compliant towards it, or were you kind of fighting back?
I was kind of fighting at first because I almost like broke down to the person that was in charge of the application process. Like, look, I don't draw in this style. I like realistic stuff. I like it. This does not fit the style that I like. Feel like I most speaks with me. So they were like, no, your style is stylized. I just didn't realize at the time.
Okay. So you were they told you that you had more of a stylized style than you realized you did. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't until I saw like some real actual concept work, like some Sid Mead stuff, that I was like, oh yeah.
It's still nice that they still thought you were a good fit for the school,
Yeah.
To go there.
I definitely am grateful today that that's the program that I took, because a lot of people want stylized stuff these days.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. I mean, especially, I know you wanted to work in live action at first, but I mean, animation is all about stylization and pushing shapes and everything like that, So that's probably, I mean, I'm sure taking that illustration path instead of the concept art path probably pushed you, more towards a career in animation. Were you expecting to work in animation when you entered Art Center, or was that something that kind of happened while you were there?
I really wasn't, it's funny. I kind of wasn't sure. I was still really dead set on like, I want to be a concept artist in film, and that's what I want to do. And it wasn't until maybe a year or so in that I really blossomed into what I wanted to do in animation. Like it was just after talking to so many teachers and hearing their stories and getting to know what the like industry was like, that it really became like a light bulb kind of like for me.
So for you, it wasn't just about like doing the certain things and finding out what you like. It was more like having direct personal conversations with people kind of helped you go. Like, you weren't inspired by like a movie or a series that made me go, oh, I want to do that. You were like, teachers had to kind of like guide you into the direction that you felt like was best for you.
Yeah, it was. I'd say it was a little mixture of both, but definitely just being around, like having teachers that really got kind of were excited about what I was doing and like pushing me to keep working harder. Really like was like, all right, yeah, I think I can do this. Like, this is something I can do. And whereas before it was like, I felt like I couldn't do it because it was something that was so foreign to me.
Gotcha.
I see.
Yeah.
Were there any particular? So since Art Center is probably relatively fresh in your mind. You were there what, how long ago was it at this point? 5-6 years ago you were there.
I graduated in 2018.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's only been like 2 or 3 years. So it's pretty fresh in your mind. Do you have any specific? Let's say there's people that are young entering Art Center, or maybe any college, but Art Center specifically, because I know that's incredibly popular out here in LA. Any classes that you took specifically, or any teachers that you had specifically that you can kind of remember that really affected your path as an artist?
Yeah, I would say probably Bill Perkins was the best teacher I had there. He taught a few classes there. He's actually the department chair right now for the illustration entertainment program. And he also was the art director for Aladdin, which is really cool.
Whoa, cool.
So he teaches lighting for entertainment. He also teaches, I believe, background design for entertainment. And he teaches a variety of classes. They always are changing them. He does a few advanced courses there. He's one of the teachers you wouldn't get till later, but since when I came in Art Center, I was kind of like feeling very like the underdog. I didn't get a lot of attention by the teachers because I wasn't like, yes, I'm an animation advocate. Like, this is what I want to do. I wasn't showing that in my work.
Yeah.
They were kind of like, there's a lot of favoritism there. So they would pick students that they liked the most and kind of give them the most mentorship, and like the others would fall at the wayside if they didn't work as hard or the work just didn't show as much promise. So that was me up until about my second half of school, where I started like really working harder. And Bill Perkins was like the first teacher I had that really I felt like gave a shit about what I was doing. So that meant a lot, and he helped me to like feel confident enough to actually make it something that I felt like I could do.
That's pretty cool. So what do you think that switch was halfway through the school year that made you kind of amp it up? Because you said halfway through you started, people started taking notice of you because you started amping it up or whatever. So is that like something where you decided, hey, I'm going to focus and say that this is my career path? Or was it just you think you got to that level as an artist that people started noticing a little more?
I'm like one of those people that really gets off on negative reinforcement. I don't want to say get off, but like, I also mean get off, right? But like, just there was cliques at school. So there were the people who like were the good artists that were like, they would just kind of stick to themselves and help each other out and help each other grow. And I was like on the outside, and I kind of held this like, I'm going to show you mentality. That's where, yeah.
So a little bit
just like pulled these all-nighters. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
cool.
Good.
And that gave you that little extra fire boost under your butt.
Totally. Yeah. And it definitely got me noticed. There was like, I went from being like the worst in the class to all of a sudden being the best in the class, which like really felt good.
Nice, man. That's a big switch. Nice, dude. I'm glad.
Is good piece of advice for people who may be struggling with the same, because I remember feeling the exact same way in my own college, like whenever there was favoritism or cliques and stuff, because me personally, I was never the person that like, I was never a clique type of person, and I felt the exact.
Me neither.
Yeah. So do you have anything like any good piece of advice, or is that your piece of advice to people who feel like they're defeated because they're not part of these big cliques and they're not the favorite by every single teacher and all of that?
I would just like say that it's important to ask a lot of questions and befriend the teacher. Don't be afraid to, because they will help you if you like really emphasize like coming to them and just asking, what do I need to improve? What am I doing wrong here? They'll take the time to help you. It was just that I was kind of like so forlorn that I wasn't really asking those questions. I just felt like I didn't belong there almost. I also started using Photoshop really late. It wasn't until college that I started using Photoshop.
Oh, wow.
Were you always a pen and paper guy?
Yeah. Like I was so like against Photoshop. I had like a million Copic markers. I was like, no, I don't need it. I got my Copics, my 100 Copics that I spent all this money on.
Did you go to college in the late 90s?
No, it's like it was funny. They were even trying to introduce it to us in high school, and I was like, "This is awkward. This doesn't feel as easy to me. Fuck this. Like, I'm not doing it." Why would I do something awkward if I can draw better without? Like,
That's cool that we were one of the. So I mean, you're on the younger side, and you were fighting against Photoshop. You know, that's something you usually hear, like, because I know working obviously in animation, you work with people of all different ages, people that are like, you know, even in their 60s, and that's something you usually hear from the older guys. Like, I'm a pen and paper only guy. I don't like Photoshop.
When I started going to college is when digital application of Photoshop, Illustrator, and After Effects were new, relatively new. So like what generation are you in?
I was just like so against it. I don't know why. Because I felt like it was weird not looking at the like drawing on something and then looking at a screen over here. It just felt awkward to me. It wasn't until I got my first like I only use Cintiqs. I refuse to use the pads. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that's kind of a cool little anecdote that you were so anti Photoshop. Were you like, when you actually went to college, was there a big learning curve that you were kind of behind everybody else on?
Oh, totally. Like
you had all your practical. You had all your practical skills.
Yeah.
When they started giving us Photoshop assignments, I was just like, "Oh no, oh no."
Well, honestly, like if you always make your educational experience about what you want, you don't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
How long did it take to catch up with everybody else as far as Photoshop stuff?
Well, I had 8 terms at Art Center. I'd say I wasn't like really getting caught up until about my 5th term.
Oh wow. So that's that's interesting. Nice, man. But now you're a Photoshop whiz. What do you think?
I think so. I'm still learning a lot though. Like layer masks are new to me.
Do you still prefer pen and paper over Photoshop to this day?
I jump back and forth. I also do like plein air painting from time to time. I think that what I like about plein air in pen and paper is just that it forces you to like commit to an idea, whereas Photoshop, I'm just really used to Command Z.
Yeah, you kind of get spoiled that way, huh?
Yeah, I found I draw a lot quicker on pen and paper if I want to get an idea down. So I usually will draw first on pen and paper and then like jump to Photoshop and like finalize it there.
Yeah, a lot of the older guys I worked with, that's how they operated. It's just because for most of them, they spent like 20, 30 years of their career on pen and paper and ink and painting. So it's like they'd only do Photoshop for like touch-ups.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of comic artists work that way still. I have a handful of friends who work in the comic industry who refuse to do like digital stuff and are all about inking with certain nibs for every line and whatnot.
Well, I also give them, like, some of the older artists I know and people I grew up with, it was different because the sophistication of digital programs is way better than it was 15, 25 years ago. So I get if you're only like digital now, you're like, yeah, you could do everything you could have done pen and paper. But
Yeah.
20 years ago, no, you couldn't do everything. You had to really limit yourself. And that was hard for people who had a specific style and aesthetic and was working certain ways.
Yeah. It's come so far, especially now with like the iPad Pro and Procreate. Yeah, like people are kicking ass with this stuff they're making on that program.
And just like what Reid said, is like Cintiqs aren't that old. Like I remember the first Cintiq. They brought into our like when I was working at Mike Young, they brought it in. It was like, here, this is the new way everyone's gonna start working. And it was like, all right, here's a mark. And it'll appear. Okay, here's another mark. And then it appeared. That was the original.
Like 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
The buffer.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And then we were all like, that's not going to cut it.
That's
No,
crazy. That's what they expect. How they expected you to work. It's
Yeah,
just
that was 15 years ago. So things change.
for sure, definitely. So after Art Center, how did you transition to your first job? Was it something that was immediate, or was it something that took a little while before you were able to break in?
It was definitely not immediate. I left Art Center thinking I was going to be a visual development artist. And I had no idea my line art was my best. So it wasn't until basically I started talking. So yeah, I got out of school. I had like a 3-month break just to recover and like decompress because I literally stayed up 96 hours one time.
Doing work for Art Center?
Working for Art Center, yeah. Like, have you ever hallucinated while drawing? Because
Not while drawing.
I remember specifically a moment of it was like right before graduation. This is probably like 8th term. I was painting a dragon, and all of a sudden its wings started flapping. And I was like in the studio. I was in the labs alone at 4 a.m. Just like, is anybody else here? Can someone verify that I'm not going insane?
So was that because you were sleep deprived that you saw a dragon?
Yeah. Funny. Your brain does funny stuff after about 50 hours of no sleep.
Oh yeah.
I gotta try this. Yeah. I want to see a dragon's wings flap.
Yeah, and I kept thinking I was seeing someone in the corner of my eye in the room with me, but there was no one else there.
Every school has a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, I would stay there overnight at the labs working on my graduation portfolio. And I slept on this couch, and it felt really bad this one time when this guy was like, "Hey, I'm sorry I slept in your spot last night." And I was like, "I have a spot?" No.
That's funny. So we were working a lot of late nights there at our center. Was that the norm? Were a lot of people doing that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of the people I graduated with, we would it'd be almost competitive where we would stay and be like, all right, I'm only gonna work a half hour longer. How about you? Oh, probably half hour. And then a half hour passed by, we both still be there. Another half hour, we both still be there. It's 4 a.m. We're both still there. And then eventually the sun is rising, one of us leaves, and then the other one's like, oh, they left finally. And then we would leave. Because we're both working on the same assignment for the same class or something. But it was just super competitive, which I think that's what I got most out of that school, was the competitive nature of things.
Yeah, I know earlier you said that it was the healthy competition of the cliques that really set you off. So you were saying a second ago, building your graduation portfolio. So as an illustration major, what did that consist of, and what exactly is a graduation portfolio?
It's geared at whatever the job that you want to go into is, but they will kind of you'll have a class that will help look at your portfolio and kind of aim you at something like, this is where you fit. And I was really stuck on biz dev, and I also thought I wanted to do storyboarding. So they were like, you should really pick one. And I didn't really think at the time that I should. I was like, no, I could do biz dev and storyboarding. Totally. Those are totally opposite things. And at the time, no one was really hammering that home for me.
Interesting. Oh
no.
No. Wow. This time, instead of freezing, he just disappeared.
It happens.
Okay.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, he'll jump back once he recognizes.
And that's the end of the podcast, everybody. Thanks for joining. Just kidding.
That was a quick one.
Yeah, it was like an hour already, but yeah, it's kind of quick compared to our other ones.
Yeah, sure.
We're getting close to this is his first year in the industry, so I'm sure he's gonna. A lot of times with people that are longer, we'll go another hour on all the jobs they had. So. Right,
but this one is this is going to be really fascinating to find out how he got connected to his gig.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Well, and, I know what he does. He's still is active outside of his job now. He goes out with coworkers a lot, go out and paint together. A lot of I know a lot of background artists, like even other like studios. They all go out and then they'll paint.
Yeah, for like plein air painting. I know a lot of my friends, background friends that do that.
Yeah. So if you can talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. Should one of us text him or something?
I'm sending him an invite, so hopefully he's able to rejoin. Maybe his phone died or something.
Oh, that could be, yeah. Could be his phone died. Could be the world ended and we're all dead.
The only thing good about like not good, but like all the memes of like Evangelion and like the red skies that have been coming out have been hilarious.
I've seen those. Yeah. Just getting the damn robots, Senji.
Yeah.
Just giant fucking monsters and mechs in the skyline.
Well, we got all the catastrophe, but none of the cool stuff.
I know, right? Come on, at least put one giant robot.
Wait for the aliens to pop up. Like, I thought that was gonna be the thing of 2020. Like,
that is, you heard, you know about I know we're still alive, but like maybe 2 months ago there was some type of debriefing that it was announced, I think in the New York Times or the New York Post or something, some legitimate news source, where there was people quoted saying they have aircrafts or like spacecrafts or vehicles made not on this Earth. So they were basically saying they have alien spacecrafts in their custody, and that was a actual quote from an actual person that works in the. It's not UFO anymore. It's like some other letters that mean the same thing. You know.
Show me this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'll send you the article later. It was basically like big news for like a week, and then people stopped caring about it. But essentially, they have a UFO aircraft in their custody, is what they said, and they've been kind of slowly announcing that stuff since 2017, which is pretty odd.
Like common knowledge, like the government has said we are in affiliation with friggin' other like species.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's something that they found that's like from maybe another country built it and they have it in their custody, or if it's an actual spacecraft from the unknown origin or what. But they definitely said they had it something made not on this Earth in their custody. That was what they thought.
And did you know that year is the actual year that the Mayan calendar ends? It wasn't 2012. It's actual year.
Who said that?
The Mayan calendar. They were actually talking. It's confusing. I don't know, but like
the last 2 pages of the Mayan calendar get stuck together. We have to like kind of pull them apart.
No, like so basically, their 2012 that they meant.
Yeah.
Mayans meant. We miscalculated. It's actually this year.
Oh damn!
Yeah,
well, it's not too far off. I mean, we're pretty close to the end of the world at this point. Yeah, I'm super stoked for the aliens, man. I love that stuff. I really hope it's true.
I want to say hi to some tall whites and some small grays.
Right. And the whole Bob Lazar stuff's really interesting. I watched a bunch of his interviews and that documentary on him. And you know Bob Lazar, Sabrina?
Why am I blanking on the documentary series?
Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, Ancient Aliens.
No, it's not Ancient Aliens.
Oh,
it's like actual. It's like legitimate stuff. It's Bob Lazar worked in Area 51, and he was exiled because he did some stuff he wasn't supposed to, and then it's pretty cool. Check it out. It's on Netflix. It's called Bob Lazar in Area 51. Good doc. Yeah, man, I'm totally stoked on the aliens. If there's any conspiracy theories I get behind, it's alien ones.
Sorry for everyone who's listening, and we're just.
We have a few people who are just tuning in.
Yeah, we have
It's different podcasts then.
Yeah. Me and Sabrina did the Joe Rogan podcast all this stuff.
Oh my god.
There we go.
Ooh, I like your window.
Thank you.
Hey Reid, how's it going, man?
Well, I'm so sorry. My laptop just rebooted itself without my permission.
Hey, no worries. It's all good. Okay, but now we have to start over. That's the only caveat. From the very beginning. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, so what was your first animation memory?
You guys.
Yeah. I forgot where we left off. We were just talking about aliens while you were gone.
Oh, we were talking. the graduation portfolio because we were trying to near like how he got into the industry.
Right. We're about to go over how you broke into the industry, but you were saying that I asked about what a graduation portfolio consists of. I forget if we finished answering that one. I know you started saying it was like stuff that was geared towards the job you wanted, and you were thinking you wanted to be, still you wanted to be a concept guy, but you also wanted to be a storyboard artist, and you didn't quite narrow it down. So how did you get? Because neither of those things are background layout. They're both different things. How did you end up going with background layout?
Well, it was we have like a grad night at Art Center, so like recruiters come, and this product design company came by, and they took like a look at my portfolio, and they saw some stuff that I had with line art in it, and they were like, "Oh, your line art's your best work. You should focus more on that." And I didn't really think much of it until like later on, and then I showed my portfolio after about 3 months of not finding any jobs out of school to a mentor of mine, who basically looked at it and was like, "Yeah, you should work more on your line art work." And he was actually a game developer for Insomniac Games. His name is Tom Barlow, and he was a neighbor of mine who worked on the video game Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, cool.
So like he was kind of like my mentor going through school and stuff, but he helped look at my portfolio, and he was kind of like brutally honest with me where some of my teachers weren't. It was like, "You should focus on your line work." So I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Okay." And I started drawing more concept work with my lines, showing off my line skill. And then I particularly liked drawing medieval stuff. So the show Disenchantment kind of fit that bill perfectly, specifically since they like to do medieval Disney style stuff, which is like Disney. I think their style is my biggest influence.
Okay, for line art?
Yeah, just I feel like their shape language really like resonates with me. It's just like my default goes towards them. So Disenchantment, like they take their Bible is Pinocchio. Like that's like the style that they're going off of.
I didn't even know that.
Interesting. So when you were building your portfolio, so when your mentor told you that you should focus more on the line art rather than the concepting and the storyboarding, at that point, did you decide to completely rebuild your portfolio from scratch?
Yeah, I kind of like took out all of my paintings and focused more on my concepting and line art layout stuff. I still wanted to, I wasn't totally sure if I wanted to get into animation. I was more focused, I think, in concept art. It was actually kind of a fluke that Disenchantment just fit exactly. I was trying to build a concept design portfolio to get into like Blizzards. I wanted to work on WoW. At least that's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
And I saw Disenchantments, and I was like, this is something I could enjoy. This show has a style that really fits what I like to draw. I think if I got paid to work on the show, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
did you? Was there season 1 already out at that point?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. So you actually saw it on TV, and you were like, "I like this style."
Yeah. And a lot of my friends from Art Center, one of them, Megan Ho, she worked on the show as well in one of the first seasons, and she recommended me. So I came in and took a test. Unfortunately, I did not pass because although my line art was good, I didn't have a lot of background experience because this was like I was already out of school and I'd never really thought about doing background art. So it was just kind of like foreign to me. And they were giving me prompts with no boards or anything to go off of, just design a background from scratch. And it was just like, this is so hard. I can't do that.
What kind of background did they ask you to design? Just like come up with a medieval comedy background or something?
They gave like 2 prompts. So at 8 hours, I had to do bar interior for toddlers, a medieval bar interior for toddlers. And then it was a drawbridge leading to a castle in the distance, but the drawbridge is broken. And I had also to do 2 props.
Oh, props?
Yeah, and I do that in 8 hours, no internet. Like, it was just like a lot to do in a short period of time.
You did it in studio too, right? They set you down and said you have the day, go.
Yeah, we had to do it in studio. Just kind of strange.
A lot of the tests, I mean, I'm not crazy about giving artists tests for things, but at the same time, I've given artists tests as a production person, and I've never made them sit in a studio and work an entire day.
Certain studios do that. Rough Draft specifically does that.
Yeah. Do they pay you for that day?
No, totally no. But
interesting.
Yeah, it was intense, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out later I didn't pass. I was really upset. So I ended up taking a background design for entertainment class with another teacher that I had at Art Center, who I forgot to mention actually, Kang Lee. To anyone trying to get into the industry for backgrounds, I highly recommend taking a class with him if he is still teaching there. Background design for entertainment.
Kang Lee?
Yeah.
Cool. And did you go back to Art Center to take this class? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just telling Nick to type that in the chat for everyone.
Oh yeah. Did you go back? Did you go back to Art Center to take the class, or did you?
No, to another place called Concept Design Academy, which
right,
is a super good place to go if you're trying to get your skills up.
Agreed.
It's a good place.
Yeah, I took a class there even after I started working with Alex Kerwan on character design.
In here, well, not that year, but I went there after working.
Yeah, I know that's a place a lot of animation industry artists who I've worked with in the past have gone to even after they're already working in the industry, and then also have taught at some of the background artists and whatnot that have worked at places I've worked have taught there as well. So it's a great place to meet animation industry professionals and to hone your skills, which is definitely what I've noticed.
Wait, cool. the guy that you said his name was Chang Lee?
Kang, Khaangle.
Okay, because I remember taking an environment sketching class by someone named Ed Lee, and I think he worked on a lot of the Disney and DreamWorks and stuff. Like he worked on Spirit, and I think he worked on Princess of the Frog or something. He worked on a lot of good stuff, and he did a lot of background development stuff.
Forgot about that movie, Spirit.
It was a good movie.
What was this subtext?
Stallion of the Cimarron.
Stallion of the Cimarron. What a weird.
Or Cimarron or something.
Yeah,
it was one of DreamWorks' early movies.
Yeah. It was a TV.
Horse.
Yeah, it's about a horse. Yeah, it was like a horse.
Yeah, okay.
They were near.
So something that happens here often, Reid, is that we like to give advice to some of the people that are feeling a little down on their luck, feeling a little defeated, feeling like they might not be making the best choices or decisions, and then when they're kind of doubting themselves, because that happens, especially the artists, that happens a lot. You feel a lot of doubt. You feel like you're making the wrong decision. So when you got that rejection from the disenchantment test, how did you feel? How did that make you feel, and how did you get over that hump?
I definitely, it was humbling for sure. I'm like a cock. I'm still kind of, well, no, I'm definitely less cocky, but I was really cocky at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not working hard enough, and I just need to focus and grind it out. And there's definitely sacrifices you're gonna have to make. During this time, I was like, no way am I dating. I don't even see you, cute girl. You're invisible. You're on blinders. And yeah, I wasn't going out. I was my friends were like, come on, man, let's go, let's do it. My roommates were like, let's go out. I was like, no, I can't. Don't you understand?
I need to hone my skill.
Yeah.
So you spent the time after after that disenchantment test fiasco, you decided to spend your time honing your skill. You took that class with Kang Lee, and you decided to just hone in and focus on that one thing, which is environment design.
Yeah, backgrounds, practicing, trying to learn as much as I could. I actually got a freelance out of that class because this guy, that's what's so cool about taking those classes, because it gets you connected with more people.
It does.
So I started working as a freelance background designer and painter on this other show.
What show?
Well, it's called, it's by Class Dojo is the studio, and it's called Mojo. And it's a children's educational show. It's not really, I wouldn't call it like real animation. It's like these little shorts that have like 8-bit animation where it's just like, I'm walking.
Like it's just pop, like pop, pose to pose.
Yeah. I did that for really cheap, but it was like a good experience to just like learn what the pipeline is like.
Yeah, for sure. So that was your first professional gig, was the freelance on this Mojo show.
Yeah, and I actually was already doing that when I started at Disenchantment. But the reason I even got that freelance was because in that class, I was just like always putting like the most work in out of everyone in the class. Like I was treating it like it was my life. Like, yeah. I had a part-time job at a golf course, and it was really cool because we were our own bosses there. So I would do my work and I would drive my little golf cart out into like the bushes and just like pull out my Cintiq and just keep working on my portfolio.
We had a guest that basically kind of recommended the same thing that people do, like find a part-time job where you're going to have a lot of downtime to yourself and you're going to get to like draw whenever possible and everything. And I hear that like happen quite often. Like I think I know some people from our school too that are working jobs where they make it possible to do that, so you can kind of like have, meet in the middle with your need stuff,
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you're making money to survive, but also balancing it out with keeping your skills up and getting things ready.
Yeah. And if you have a job you hate, it's just going to make you want to like work that much harder.
Yeah, true. Yeah. True too.
For sure. So how did you end up? So you the first disenchantment test you didn't pass, but did you require one more test, two more tests? Did you have to take another test? How did you end up getting on it?
Well, thankfully at the time, my friend who graduated a semester before me had started working there after I'd taken the test. And I was finished with my class at CDA, and I had like a few backgrounds from it and some good props that I thought were like pretty good. And they also were in that medieval style. So she just showed them to Alex. What was Alex's position, Sabrina?
A coordinator.
Our coordinator, and she just like was like, "Oh yeah, you're perfect for the show. Like so." They knew that I fit. Basically, I just mimicked the style. I showed it in my work. They knew that I could do it based off of the work that I had already. So they were like, "Oh yeah, you can do this. It's clear from the portfolio work that you have." So they didn't even make me take another test. They just were like, "You're in."
That's great. So once you failed that first test, did you, in your mind, were you like, I'm getting on the show no matter what? Or was it just a coincidence that it happened to be Disenchantment?
It was a coincidence.
Nice.
But I didn't think I was going to get another shot, to be honest. I thought it was over. Yeah. I'm grateful. It's really good to like know people in the industry, and for people that don't know anyone who are feeling pretty like down on yourselves, just go to like Lightbox Expo or like CTN when they are in person, obviously not. But like there's one thing that I definitely loved the most about those, even before I started working in the industry, was just how nice everyone was and how many connections I made. Like, there were artists that, had hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram that would be happy to talk with me about like video games that we liked as kids. And just, there's just a family and a community within the animation industry that I think that, if you're just a nice person and outgoing and friendly, you can make so many friends with people that could potentially help you out on a show. And they will help you out because we definitely, as a family, do want the best for each other. It sucks to see someone struggling who is working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For show. Yeah, of course. Yeah, once you kind of are in a, regardless of what studio you're at or whatnot, but once you kind of have a solid group of friends or associates in the animation industry, if somebody knows you're right for a job, they'll look out for you and they'll be like, oh, this guy fits this billing, so it really helps to have those contacts in the industry, even as a production person, same thing. Like I have knowledge of all these different artists that I've worked with, and as soon as something comes up for the right person, I know, boom, who to go to. So it's good to definitely have your contacts and your communication skills up to snuff,
Yeah. First time I went to CTN, I felt like I was at Hogwarts, like Harry Potter year one, like, holy shit, there's so many people like me out here. Like, this is so cool. It's like you can speak a second language to these people that you can't speak with anyone else. And it's just like nerd language, but it's just so like fluid, and it feels like you can only communicate it with people that also like the same shit as you, which is other people in the animation industry for the most part. Yeah,
for sure. People in the animation industry are the perfect mix of like nerdy and cool, it's like, and also like not super like, I feel like they're also usually really easy to talk to and chill. It's like the perfect amalgamation of like, the subcultures. At least that's what I've found working in the industry for 5-6 years,
Yeah, we're not like big time celebrities. We're just like, what? Please, no, I'm not gonna take a picture with you. Like,
even when I've met like relatively bigger names, like when I've met Penn Ward or when I met like Brian Konietzko or whoever, like they're always so down to earth and so chill and willing to talk to you.
Yeah.
Nice. I think Reid, did you freeze again?
My hair.
Oh no.
It's like holding still.
You're just standing still.
So, what do you do nowadays when you're still working right now? What do you do nowadays when you're not working to keep up your skill and everything and also keep motivated, especially during these times?
I always try to keep working on a project of some kind. And right now I'm working on like this pirate ship village that I'm working on.
Pirates.
Yeah, I'm still into the pirates. It's a disease that
I'm back to Howard Pyle, right? That was the name?
Yeah.
Full circle. Nice, man. So how do you find the motivation to keep working on personal stuff after you work all day on a show?
Good question.
It's real easy. Just, give me an assignment to draw a pile of rocks and make me work on it for a week with notes. And then I'm like, I gotta get a better job. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, everybody that phase, and even when you do get in the industry, even though you're like, oh my god, like it's a dream to work in animation, like I don't care who you are, I'm pretty sure if you've been in this industry long enough, you're gonna hit a show where you're just like, oh my god, like kill me now because this is stressful, or or you just genuinely just don't like it, and you unfortunately just you got to make the bills and stuff, but it happens. But that's okay. That's part of life. And then there's shows that are more exciting than others.
Yeah. Sometimes there's shows that are terrible to work on, but everyone on it is awesome. So you're in it together, and it's still fun.
Those are most of the shows.
Yeah. Sure. So what did you say, Sabrina?
I said you all hate together, and then you complain together, and then it just becomes even more of like a family,
It's called the trenches.
Yeah, you're trenches. Yeah, I hear that a lot. So Reid, I know animation wasn't your first thought when you were in art center or even when you were back in Citrus in high school, but how did, or Citrus and also in high school, but how do you, now that you've been in the animation industry for a little over a year, do you think it's something that you want to stay with, or do you think you want to switch back to concept design for live action film, or what do you see the future of your career being?
I think I would like to stay in animation, but perhaps switch to feature at some point. I mean, that's like a really ambitious goal, but it's something that I would like to do later down the line if I could get to it. Just because I like to take my time with my concepts. Like, I really like, I'll spend a day just looking up references for something. But, you know, I learned that really quickly at Rough Draft. Like, you have to be working quickly, and there's like people counting on your design. So sometimes I'm like, we're drawing something, and I'm like, all right, I hope they like this. I don't know, did they like it? I'm like, oh, cool. My ass.
Sure.
Glad you enjoyed it.
I think you froze for a second, but there's definitely. Oh, is he there? Oh,
You're spying.
You got so excited that your camera stopped.
Oh, man. Where did I freeze? What point did I freeze at?
You froze with your finger up your nose. No, I'm joking.
Oh no.
No, I was saying in the animation, especially in like television animation and in this kind of conveyor belt mentality that a lot of these shows have kind of fallen into, it's especially with layout artists, because when it comes to backgrounds and layouts, unless you're having the offsite studio do them off of keys or something, there's going to be a lot of designs and different angles you need to crank through really, really quickly. You know, so it like speed. Sometimes, a lot of times, I've noticed, artists that are their technical level might be at an 80%, but their speed is at 100. They might get hired over somebody that's 100% technical and 80% speed, which I've noticed a few times, especially with layout artists. I've noticed that. So I think that does count for something, being able to go fast. And I'm sure in the feature world, you definitely have. I don't know. I've never worked in features, and I don't know too many people that have. But I'm sure it's a different mentality where you have much more time to kind of figure things out and research things.
Yeah, I just think that I like, I'm very passionate when it comes to creating something that really is amazing. Whenever I'm working on something, I really want to put my 100% effort into it. So it's like frustrating. I feel like I have to like kind of, I never like turning in anything if I feel like I could have done it better, basically.
Yeah. And you always do better next time than the time before.
Yeah. So if I had to rush on something, it's kind of a bummer for me. If I felt like I could have, like, if it could have been like, if it's good but it could have been great, I'm like, but you have to meet this deadline. So sometimes that's just how it goes.
No, yeah, that is definitely how it goes. And then of course there's the whole thing of getting notes back and having to hit those notes in a certain amount of time as well. So it all comes down to that. How to be economic about things, how to know how to take little shortcuts here and there. I think it's an important skill when it comes to layouts as well.
It's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah.
I have some questions from our chat. Shall I ask some, or did you have any other questions to ask, Ant?
The last thing I was going to ask is, as somebody who, from the perspective of somebody who wasn't dead set on the animation industry in the beginning, but ended up going that path, do you have any advice for people that are in a similar situation as you? Somebody who's starting college, might not know exactly where they want to go, illustration, animation, live action concepts. Any words of advice for those kids out there that are potentially in a similar boat? Maybe pros and cons of actually going with the animation route.
Well, I think that there's a lot of pros to be taken from the animation industry. For starters, there's lots of work out there. So it's not a very niche environment. And everyone kind of knows each other for the most part. I mean, I feel like the more you're in the industry, the more you know. But like the amount of friends I've made in this 1 year is insane. And some of them are going on to work at different companies like Netflix, Disney, Nickelodeon. Like they're all over the place, and we're all kind of, it's a network. It's a network that I don't think you could get anywhere else.
Yeah. That's definitely a big pro for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any bits of advice for some of those kids that are starting off?
I think just don't be afraid to be comfortable. I also think that this is some advice that I asked from my supervisor, one of my directors on the show, because there's times when I wasn't able to meet the deadlines, and I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this as well, actually. But this is like a controversial topic I'm about to bring up. It's a little spicy. I'm a little worried.
We got Brian.
Right now.
Controversial. Is it about? Are you a QAnon? Get the hell out of here! No, no.
What? I got some cumin right here in my pocket.
No.
Oh,
you froze it, Anthony.
I froze him. The government's watching.
Yeah, that was your fault, man. Yeah, that was your fault.
I feel like whenever he gets too excited and animated, he freezes. It's like his computer knows. His computer's like, reel it in a little bit.
To read in the future, just when you're excited, just like contain it.
Yeah, no excitement on this podcast.
Yeah.
Holly, everybody.
So, Reid, I don't know if you know or not. You probably hear us, Reid, but you are frozen once again. And we're excited to know what this controversial topic is.
Yeah, I want to know this.
Right when you said that, you froze. Now we're kind of on the edge of our seats. Come on, Reid. Don't leave us hanging.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Reid, you're back.
I think he's back.
Oh, he froze again.
Froze again. Oh, hi.
He's chatting.
He said hi to us. It came up, right? It came up like big.
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Reid? Yeah. Everybody hold hands.
This is what it's going to come to for now.
We're going to do an interview via text. This is a...
That would be interesting.
Oh, you're back. Oh, from the afterlife. Nice.
Am I here?
Yes.
We see you.
Okay.
It's on the edge of our seat here with this controversial topic.
Yeah. Before I lose you guys again, let me just say it. So, sometimes I've noticed it's hard to meet the deadlines on assignments. So I asked my director, "What's most important to studios, like quality or meeting the deadline?" And he said, "Meeting the deadline. And if you don't meet the deadline, sometimes you have to put in those extra hours off the clock, even if you're starting out. If you want to make an impression with the company, you have to kind of show that you're willing to make those sacrifices and do that hard work, because a deadline is a deadline, and if you can't meet it, it's going to snowball into the next person who's getting screwed over because they're waiting for your thing to get to them, and it just creates a big budget problem for everybody. So sometimes sometimes directors have notes that came up last minute where they're like, actually, that dolphin needs to be a shark. Or that's a weird example, but that's just what happens. And you've already finished whatever it is that you need to do, but that will happen. And that might involve staying late one night or working overtime off the clock, not getting paid.
So Brian, what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, so that's a great topic, because I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's been working in the industry for a long time, but he's trying a different position and a job type that he's not accustomed to, and he's struggling with it. And I told him straight up, like almost what your art director says, like it's better to have it done than to have it perfect, because you can get perfection later. But as you perfectly pointed out, is like if it's not in, then like the process of production can't move forward, and that's more devastating than simply saying like, well, it's an 85% drawing. We can work with that versus like I need it at 100 and only 100 will do. Like that causes problems later. Now the whole working overtime thing, that's really like not only is that a case by case scenario, but that's also a studio thing. Like no one should be, if it's your personal failing why you couldn't meet the deadline, like let's say you got too distracted, or like there may have been like some personal issues that got in the way, then you should probably take the initiative to make sure your work's done. But if it's like mismanagement within the company and then they're forcing you to work extra hours, especially not paid, no, don't deal with that. That's ways that studios can exploit specifically young artists to get more work out of them. And you won't really know that on your first or second or even third job if you're being exploited or not, because you don't have the experience yet. But yeah, just be a little wary. Like I'm totally in favor of working hard. Like I totally, like when I was animating at Cartoon Network, I would definitely take work home and kind of like work on it for myself. But I was doing that for my own benefit. I wasn't being forced or coerced to. I was just like, I could make that a little better. I'll go home and do it like myself. So that's always going to happen because we're artists and sometimes we like to be perfectionists.
Sometimes I feel that way. Yeah, there's definitely like that. I feel responsible.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have, because like you were talking about how it's a community, and like I've worked in plenty of jobs where it's the trenches. The thing that makes me want to work the hardest is I know other people are counting on me. Like I don't want to let anyone down, so I'm like I'm going to do the best I can, because like my friends or the people I know, the people I associate with, the people I like, are also in a similar spot, so I don't want to be the weakest link, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah. If I know my director's putting in that extra hours and he's my friend, I'm going to put in those extra hours to try to like meet that goal for him.
Yeah, and like once you start working long enough, you'll know how to better like deal with your time management, to know like, you know what, I got my work done. And if other people work harder, that's on them. But like I know my baseline and like what's acceptable. And like you said, like you'll get things coming from your director, art directors, or even from the producers making changes last minute. That's why burnt out, like Sabrina always talks about, is super critical. Like you don't want to like put 100% effort in, work all these crazy hours, and then they just toss it out later and say, make that, we had this on Rick and Morty, make that White House black last minute. So yeah, just again, be mindful to production as well. So burnout is important.
You also get like a sense of everybody's pacing when you work in the industry long enough. Like I remember in the very beginning, I didn't know whether I was too slow or too fast compared to my coworkers that were doing the same types of assignments as I was. And then a few years in, like I started to get a sense that, okay, I'm starting to like turn in just as much work as everybody else is. And then start to get hit with notes that are kind of last minute, and you start to also collectively sense a frustration from everyone else too. Like these are last minute, like they're dumping this on us now, and they're gonna have to expect to pay us overtime. Like, because the overall consensus with overtime is the studio is supposed to technically ask you to because they have to have the budget to pay you. So you can't just go and do overtime yourself and then like go to your producer and be like, hey, like I did overtime. Like, are you going to pay me for that? They're supposed to ask you ahead of time. And I know Disenchantment, that was actually one, I don't know if I had overtime before, but I think Disenchantment a few times in the very beginning, they approached me and they asked me, they're like, hey, we're going to need to have some overtime for a few days, because they knew that they were backed up. You know, and you do start to get a sense of like telling your coordinators, like I know I've told Alex, good old Alex and Warner a few times, they would like dump this, I don't know, huge mob of ogres on me. And then they would ask me, do you think you could get it in by this like day? And then you just like, no, in your heart, like, no.
Yeah. Don't say yes to that if you know you can't do it.
have to be like, honestly, no. And if they're okay with that, they'll like go ahead and like let people know ahead of time. That's the number one question I hate in the animation industry, is when they approach you and they ask you, when do you think you can get this done? That's like a dreaded question.
Well, but that is the question. That is production. Like a lot of times they generally don't know. So they're just going off like, I don't know how long this is going to take. We're going to ask the professional.
Yeah, sure.
I've learned to overshoot it.
Mm-hmm.
Something with production, coming from like a production standpoint, like it's always hard to tell like how long somebody's going to take on a certain assignment. And what most production people do is they kind of average out what they're getting for the show so far and say, all right, so it looks like on average we're getting 2 backgrounds per day per layout artist. We're getting 1 background paint per day per background painter. We're getting 3 character turns per day from character people or something like that. And then they'll base those numbers for like the remainder of the production schedule or something. And but the thing is, it's so organic. None of that ever actually is true. Everybody knows one character assignment design could take 3 days because of the complications of the character, and one could take 3 minutes because it's just a circle or something. Or
it depends on the show, depends on the artist you have working on the production as well.
It's very challenging to actually keep track of that stuff. And as a production person, I hate asking that question, but it's something I've done many, many, many times, just because it's like, I get asked when are they going to have this done? I'm like, oh, I don't know. This is a tough one to actually guess, to go and actually talk to somebody that might actually have a better sense. And I know
part of the supervisor's role is also knowing what's an acceptable answer and what's bullshit. Like I'll talk to board artists and I'll tell them, like, this should probably take you a couple of days to do. Like, if it's an action sequence versus a dialogue talking sequence, where I know a lot of people can pump out really quickly. But then, like I said, every individual artist has different speeds, different strengths. So you also have to work that in your mind when you're, like, handing out assignments.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so organic and hard to predict. But as far as production goes, you need numbers, and that's the worst part. Is everything's based off these numbers that are just kind of fabricated on like just guesstimates.
I know, and I'm such a purist. I look at like old Disney films and I cry when I see the remakes.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst.
Oh, the sweat and tears that didn't go into the remake. Oh God.
Oh, you mean the actual like CG remakes? Oh, I can tell you personally because I know people worked on those. There's sweat and tears worked in that.
There's definitely sweat. Yeah. Lion King, I do not doubt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's not talk about Mulan though. That's too controversial.
Ugh, I hear it's terrible.
Yeah, I tried to watch. I watched about 20 minutes of it, and I turned it off, and I watched the cartoon again. Oh man, the animated version is so good. It's one of my favorite.
But Reid mentioned something about like television versus feature, and I have a friend who used to work for television, and then she moved over to feature. She was like a board artist on Frozen's 1 and 2 and a few other movies. But like, I think I've told this story before on the podcast, but she's someone who worked with me on boards for television, and I went to her party once after she started working on feature, and I was like, hey, how'd your work week go? And she was like, oh yeah, I did like 6 drawings this week. And I'm like, fuck you. Because she's working on feature. I'm like, yeah, because we know that when we're working on television production, it's like, no, 6 drawings in a week, you're not doing anything.
Yeah. 6 drawings a day, doing something.
Yeah.
It's a lot more faster,
but she's also super talented, so it's not like I know she's not capable of producing more. It's just like that was kind of the demand. Like from what I understand, the feature is kind of like it's starvation, and then it's like power through. But most of it is like you spend that extra time to really push your skills up.
Yeah,
it's experimental.
Yeah, in television, we're just delivering the mail. It's like what? Okay, delivered. Okay, delivered. Okay, delivered.
They do more like quality over quantity for sure, because there's like feature stuff. What goes into their artwork is just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen too much of that stuff, but I know that the storyboards and features always look much different to me than storyboards in television.
Yeah. They look spooky themselves, right? Like,
yeah.
For the feature films.
Yeah, And very similarly, you also think like a feature. Like one of the reasons I personally am not I wouldn't want to work in a feature, but like you don't know how many times that story has been retold and redone like over the 5-year period of like a movie's production. Like for example, Frozen, like when I graduated from college in 2004, that's when they started working on Frozen. It was originally called The Ice Princess. I went to a CIFA and they had like a visual design concept of it. So like that movie literally took nearly 15 years to come out.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think any one people were working out the entire time, obviously, but like that's the level of time you're working at when you're considering a feature project. Like some feature projects definitely probably get accomplished way quicker, obviously within a year or two, but yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
I wonder how that works, because did they just have like a break where they were like,
it changes. Like the original name of it was called The Ice Princess, and it was going to be more of a straight kind of like classic 90s Disney thing. Like more serious, like they were gonna have musical numbers, but it's gonna be more of like a Broadway fare, not more of a like a poppy, like, oh, she can do it, and like it's fun for the kids. And we got talking snowman. No, it wasn't gonna be that kind of silly.
Interesting.
Yeah, things change in features and change, and like it could just be a studio head change. It could be a direct mandate. They could have seen a movie that was similar that comes out, and then they want to rechange it completely. They could test them. Like Disney specifically does a lot of focus testing. So you may not just the entire project may just change because they didn't focus test with a couple of kids, so they decide to throw it out and start again.
Yeah, that's true. I know I saw that documentary on The Emperor's New Groove, how they made it from Empire of the Sun. Which is interesting. I didn't know I went through so many.
One of the things I remember from that story is the fact that like because they were so tight on their deadline and already way over budget from scrapping Empire of the Sun, they basically went to the producers, and I wish every production could have this. They were like, all right, in order for us to get this done, you get 5 notes. That's it. Make them count.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
That talk has to happen quite often, like even in television animation. I've been on like quite a few shows where the creators themselves had to have a talk and be like, yo, like we need to start narrowing down your notes and the amount of like revisions. Do you remember like on Animals we went through that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with Phil for sure. I mean, yeah, it's really it's a hard balancing act, because obviously you want to make the best show for the creators and for the executive producers and stuff, but you know, at some point there needs to be a predetermined amount of note passes and then how many notes per pass, because if you don't do that, you're going to get taken advantage of, and it's just going to end up taking forever, and you need to make sure it's all built in the schedule. It's really a pain in the ass.
I don't feel like a lot of the times when they do give out notes, they don't really think about the time that it might take to address them. Just kind of like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah, usually not. Usually it's up to the producers, the supervisors, the directors to kind of like give that information to the people who are making those calls. So like, all right, if you want us to make this changes, this is what it's going to cost, either money wise or time wise. Mm-hmm. And then they make that call or not. The good producers and directors can kind of like curtail a lot of that, but when you got yes men up there, then it's like the artists are going to suffer.
Yeah. I've seen that happen a couple times where they don't push back on notes, and then we fall behind schedule, and it just snowballs from there. So yeah, it's a tight balancing act all the way through it. I'm sure on features like you want to get into, Reid, are probably just exacerbated, you know, to the nth degree, because they have so much more time to kind of hone in things.
Yeah, they have money too. Feature pays.
That's a positive of going that way.
Yeah, that's definitely like another thing. But what I really think what motivates me is I want to work on something that just has like a good message behind it. I look at like if I worked on a TV show like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like I like that's gonna like, have a positive impact on kids. Like I want to work on something like that.
That's cool. That's a really nice mentality. I think work on something that actually makes a difference and has an impact. Cool.
Yeah, that's like if I could work on something that had like an impact on people the way that like shows had an impact on me, then that is like the end all be all for sure.
I'll tell you this from experience. You'll never know. You won't know until theirs, and then someone will come back out and it's like, "Oh, that was the best show ever! I'm so glad." And you're like, "Really? You like that? All right."
Yeah. No, I had a moment like that. Like This guy was just like my Uber driver, and I worked on Disenchantment. He was like, I love that show. Keep going, keep working on the background. It's like, really? Yeah. Okay, cool.
The back
Surprise.
person's favorite part of that show.
The backgrounds are incredible. I'll give it that.
It's got cheesy one-liners.
Yeah, and that's the other funny thing. It's like not only will you not know what makes an impact or not, but like I feel you on the fact that you also want to produce something of quality that you are also proud of, obviously. So
Yeah.
Oh, show.
I got a question.
Cool, let's do it.
That was a question from Eric Paintbra. He asked, like, what would be your dream project to work on, past or present? So your answer was Avatar?
Yeah. Avatar or Samurai Jack. One of those two.
Samurai Jack is one that a lot of people give credit to. I
Oh,
hear that.
Those are two of my faves too. I think Samurai Jack, Avatar, and King of the Hill are my three favorite American animated.
Oh, King of the Hill. That's just humor-wise, that is one of the best like dry humor.
For sure.
Do you have a favorite artist? Robert Salgado.
I don't know if I like artists based on whatever personal project I'm working on. Like, I think Douglas Rogers has a really cool story. That guy has done literally everything, and he just calls himself a designer. He started out designing sets for Friends, and then he was a movie. He started out doing theater design. Then he jumped to Friends. Then his first job was the art director on Shrek. And
Wow.
he's done literally everything. He's an Imagineer. He worked on Tangled, is doing a lot of the sets for Tangled, a lot of the environments for Tangled. I'm a big architecture buff, so I like anything with like architecture involved, specifically medieval Disney style architecture. That's why I like Disenchantment so much. So yeah, I think right now Douglas Rogers, and I also like Nick Carter, who worked. Nick Carver, who worked on Overwatch.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
Let's see. How tight were have your deadlines been for Disenchantment?
I guess it fluctuates. It depends on the episode, but sometimes I've had to like do 2 background. Like I think the most I've ever had to do is 2 backgrounds in a day, and like that's pretty much the tightest it's been. And I've personally done overtime hours that I wasn't being paid for because I felt like I wasn't meeting what was required of me. And that's just because I'm a noob and I'm still getting the flow of things. So I was kind of putting quality over time, and I was just like, it has to be perfect. I don't care if I have to work overtime, it has to be perfect. So sometimes you kind of have to like turn that voice off in your head where you just need to meet the deadlines. Because I look at some of the backgrounds other artists that I work with are turning in, and they're a lot looser than mine, and they're getting approved. So
that's a skill in itself. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
A part of that is like you'll learn exactly how much effort you need to put in to get the job done. You haven't learned that yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a trial and error type thing. So early on, you may end up pulling overtime hours that you didn't need to necessarily. It's just because, like, you're just so, like, take yourself out of the production that you're working on. Your personal work is not the production that you're working on.
Right. Absolutely. That's another critical thing.
And I can also say for you, just for your situation, for Disenchantment being your first job, the style being what it is versus a lot of other cartoons. Like I've done a little bit of freelance for like a Cartoon Network show. There's some shows where like they're not that detailed, and I know Disenchantment is like they're known for like not even pulling back on detail. They're like detail. So I can kind of see where like you're struggling in a sense, like how much quality versus quantity to like pull out of you for your first show, you know? That's a tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like we said, every production has different demands, and like knowing how to mitigate and manage those demands is a huge part of it. Yeah, because like Disenchantment, I mean, it's like Matt Groening's third show. That's an A++ show.
Yeah.
To work on. It's not like like my first show was a Discovery Kids show, Todd World, which looks like it was drawn by a 5-year-old. So I had a cakewalk on that show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some shows with the style, I've seen artists crank out like 7 or 8 backgrounds in a day just because the style is so incredibly simple, you know, on certain shows. And it really is a case-by-case basis, show to show, what the demand is.
I remember we had a guest on this show. She was an architect before, and then when she got into the animation industry, she did 3D backgrounds for a while, which was like, it was work intensive, but then she ended up on Uncle Grandpa with us. And if you look at Uncle Grandpa backgrounds, they're actually pretty easy compared to what she was doing before. And she was loving it because she was just fly with the background designs. This is Amanda Lee, by the way. You might know her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember we interviewed her in a different place for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like next department.
But
that was the one I missed.
She left right before I started, I think.
Yeah, that's something you'll get to do in a while, Nick. I'm sorry, Reid, is the fact that like different shows, different styles, and then it's like, oh, now I have to. What I did on Disenchantment, I have to do a whole new thing on a whole new project.
I'm a little freaked out.
You'll do fine. That's fun, honestly.
Butter.
Yeah.
Like,
you can still do detail, but maybe like maybe the line work is different. Maybe because you're doing medieval now, and that you love that shit. But maybe it's like, oh, now I have to do like slick future Blade Runner.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I like to be challenged, so I hate like feeling like I'm not getting. Once I feel like I've mastered something, or it's just like become easy, I'm ready for the next thing. So it's like I am excited for what the future has. So like store for sure.
Okay. Any other questions, Sabrina?
Yeah, I'll ask like let's see, like two or three more questions maybe.
Okay.
Two questions, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do.
I think 2 is good.
Okay. So I thought a funny question was by Robert Salgado. He asked, is he a single layer person or 1,000 layer person for Photoshop?
I used to be an 1,000 layer person.
What happened?
I started working in the industry, and it's just like, shit, you can't do that, because when I turn it in, it has to be perfect. So I'm like, I just can't make that extra work for myself. Now I'm like color coordinated. Like I have groups, I make it labeled, but like prior to that, I used to have like the most layers I think I ever had was literally over 1,000 on a project.
Marie Kondoed your Photoshop.
Yeah, Marie Kondoed it. What layers don't spark joy for you?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, as like a production person, sometimes before shipping stuff off, you have to open up the Photoshop file and make sure all the layers are kind of appropriate. Either the art director does it or an art PA, or sometimes it falls on the production person. And sometimes there are just literally thousands of layers, and some people are just god awful at organizing their layers. And that's something you need to nib in the bud right in the beginning and be like, hey man, it needs to be like foreground, midground, background done. All right, you can't have like 10,000 layers in your background file. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, you don't want to get scolded. You don't want to get like scolded by your boss for like something like that. It's just not fun.
Not fun for anybody.
Yeah.
So I think for the last question, I'm gonna combine. Well, not combine. I'm gonna ask 2 questions because they're like light questions. One is from Jason Haygarth. Is that how you say it? How many days has he gone without sleep working on something?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do the second part too, or just do that one first?
The other one is, what's your favorite Halloween movie?
Oh, nice.
Oh man, that's so tough. Well, this one is like I went. That's my roommate asking, by the way. He's just trolling right now. But that's
They're good questions.
3 days, and you know, in college Adderall was my best friend.
Wow, 3 days, man. That's don't read that at all.
Yeah.
I think that's probably
94 hours was the longest. So
Nice, dude. That's when you were hallucinating the dragon wings.
that's what I was hallucinating. And I think I remember I finished that day, and all my friends were like, let's go to a bar. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think I should go to sleep. But by then I was like way far gone. Like my judgment was totally like I was like loopy. I was walking around like Smeagol. Like,
Now,
like, yeah, let's do it. And I ended up putting in an extra 8 hours just like that night because we were out all night. And then I think I slept for 2 days.
oh, nice.
Yeah, literally. Oh, I slept for 16 hours straight. That was the longest I ever slept.
Sick.
that's it.
Yeah.
I know.
I guess
that's it. That's a lot.
Or
All right, what's your favorite Halloween movie?
doing it.
Beetlejuice. I don't know if that's necessarily a Halloween movie, but I just like Beetlejuice a lot.
Beetlejuice? Oh, it's a
Yeah.
creepy movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Lord.
love that movie so much.
Yeah, Tim Burton definitely has a cartoony sense, so he kind of ties into the world of animation too.
He went to CalArts for a lot of like legendary animators as well, but he worked for Disney for a bit before he really moved into his live action career.
Oh, really? What did you do for Disney?
He was like I think a layout or maybe a background artist.
He worked on the Black Cauldron. So
Yeah, that's right.
He did a lot of cool concept art for the Black Cauldron, none of which got used, but it all was in his Tim Burton style. So like, I think it's really cool that he just stuck with his own style and like made it. He's like a huge inspiration to me because he just like didn't go with like the flow at all. He just stuck with his guns, and then like it worked out.
For sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that out there where they're told like, no, this isn't, you need to do this style or this style, and then they end up like the more authentic they end up going, they actually get bigger and everything for being more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's path is different. Some people they rebel by not doing what they're told, and then they get famous for it.
That's how Penn was. He refused to do anything but Penn Ward style.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Example.
Interesting.
So before we start wrapping this up, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to ask you what your biggest piece of advice for people out there in the industry is, and then we're going to take it to Brian words of wisdom, and then we're going to take it to Anthony to close off the show. But first,
Good. It's a good preface.
What?
It's a good preface of the rest of the show. Nice.
I'm taking over your job, Anthony.
Who knows what could happen?
Somebody was upset I didn't ask this question.
That's
Zachy C said, ask him about what the best way to stoke a charcoal barbecue is.
That's wow.
I guess that's an inside joke because I'm like,
Yeah, that's a very funny. You have to fan it constantly. You have to fan it at like a really quick speed. That's my cousin, actually. That's really funny.
nice.
Yeah.
asked it because they were getting upset that I just totally overlooked it. So,
Yeah, that's such an important question, Sabrina. That should have been the first thing you asked.
You have to blow and give lots of oxygen. I mean, you have to also fan it like super fast, like really fast, like frantically, like you're having a seizure fast. That's what's worked for me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm really glad that was asked because I was wondering
That's
that's
important. You know, if you're lost on an island.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So do you want to? I guess we're getting close to the wrap up here. Like Sabrina just prefaced, usually how we end it is we ask you, Reid, what your one biggest bit of advice for all aspiring animators would be, or aspiring animation industry professionals would be. Coming up in a sentence or two.
Rules.
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and ask lots of questions. And if you're in a situation where you can ask lots of questions, don't be afraid to. Just learn as much as you can if you're from others who might know more, don't be afraid to take criticism. And you're going to suck a lot at first. Like, a lot of people work on their early works in school, and they're like, this is the piece that has to define me. And then you're going to look at it in a year and be like, this is the piece that I'm most embarrassed about. Like,
That's good.
You're going to delete it. You're going to want it gone. But so don't, like, be humble, I guess, is the best advice.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. Be humble is great, because I noticed during your story you said you got humbled several times, not getting into Art Center right away, not passing the first disenchantment test, and both of those times it seemed to set you off in a different path that made you become a better artist. So I think that's being humble is definitely important.
Yeah, like every mistake is just a way to look at as a growing, like you grow from your mistakes. So like you just have to like not come at things with a mindset of this always has to be perfect, because you're always growing. Like no one is perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brian, do you got any words of wisdom?
Yeah. Because like based on Reid's story, I found it really interesting that like, because a lot of people go into either their education or their career with like a very driven, like, I'm going to be a board artist, I'm going to be a character designer. But you had a very much like, I think, if I'm misinterpreting this, like, feel free to correct me, but I felt like you had very much, you enjoyed the process and like the artistry more so than you're like, I want to do this one specific thing. And while you're in school, I mean, this is one advantage, that definitely an advantage to education, is that you could have other professionals, teachers, kind of like guide you based on the work that you are exhibiting, to say, hey, maybe you should consider this, maybe you should consider that. And you kind of like try different avenues, and kind of like you're hedging yourself into like your career and your direction. I find that very interesting. And I think that's something like people should be more open to, for sure, is that like using your education, using just a general sense of like, I know I want to produce art, but like I may not just, because there's some people I know, and again, this is being very general, it's like they look at cartoons, they're like, I want to do cartoons. Great. What do you want to do in cartoons? I don't know. I just want to do cartoons. All right. Do you like drawing characters? Do you like drawing backgrounds? Like, do you like the storytelling process? What about cartoons do you like? And they're just like, oh, I want to do cartoons. Well, figure it out.
Yeah.
And like you're like, I like illustration. I like these artists. These are things like Tim Burton movies I enjoy. They're like, pirates are cool. So like, because of that, you kind of knew art was the game, even if you didn't know exactly what the game was. But I think knowing this is what helps your art, saying like, oh, I'm inspired by all these different things, not just I like cartoons.
Yeah. I don't know where I will be in like 5 years, 10 years. Like I hope that I want to stay in the entertainment field. I know for a fact that's for sure. But I don't know where I'll be it could be anywhere. And I just hope that like, I think that each thing kind of connects and they get, like an influence on the other.
Yeah, because like with your skills, like game's a total possibility. Feature and concept, it could be a possibility. Not just feature animation, but also live action. Like there could be a specific project that has like a very like looser, more illustrative style for a live action film. That could be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to do another interview in 5 years and see where you are.
Oh man. Well, I hope I'm somewhere.
I
hope it's not like a sad like redemption story. What did you do? What advice could you give? Like, what did you do wrong? What was the wrong turn for you?
We're catching up with Reid here under this bridge.
How can you save other people from taking the path that you took?
Maybe we should start doing that podcast on occasion.
Yeah. You should just start interviewing people that are like blacklisted and just.
That's not a bad idea. That could be a good gimmick.
Do a special episode of that.
Yeah.
What'd you do wrong?
Good idea.
Was it when you slapped your director?
That'll do it.
Yeah.
We all want to sometimes. All right, cool. So Reid, I think we're wrapping stuff up. You know, obviously you're new to the industry, relatively fresh, but you had a pretty I'm sure a lot of people that are coming up in the industry right now are inspired by your story, some of the stuff you went through, some of the paths that you took. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? This doesn't seem like too far of a stretch for me. So I'm sure you actually, a lot of younger people out there are definitely solidifying some of their career choices today after listening to you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Reid?
I guess I think I've just covered it all. Just don't give up, keep trying. I've always been humbled, and it worked out. So
Where can
Don't
we
get too cocky.
don't get too cocky either. Yeah, definitely.
Reid, where can people find you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram at Reid Monninger Art, and I usually post most of my work there. I post my finalized stuff on ArtStation. It's under the same name, but Instagram is where I post a lot of stuff on my story or process work. I do a lot of daily sketches and I post them, and I'm really shy, so I don't post them on my normal post, but they'll be on my story.
I think we have that written down below, right, Nick?
Description down below. Right.
Visit me at my home address. It's 545.
And give him a call and Venmo him at Reid Monninger.
Yeah, if you have any questions, direct message me because I'm happy to help people.
Nice. That's really
I was totally in that position, so I will help anyone who has questions. If you have questions, message me.
That's nice. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, dude, thanks so much for joining us here in the Ask. We loved hearing about your animation success story and digging deep into your ass, Reid. So thank you.
I appreciate letting you guys in there.
Thanks so much for coming on and telling us all about.
Before I leave, let me show you guys something.
Oh yeah. Wait, did he freeze again, or is he coming back?
He ran off. We still have to get Brian's words of wisdom as well, I think.
What an exit! Oh shit. He's gonna be our next guest.
No, I did it.
Oh, you did it? Okay.
This is Carlos.
Hey, Carlos.
What is going on with Carlos there?
To be honest, I couldn't tell the difference for a second.
What a fancy young lad.
He's a good guy. I always put him in my roommates' beds before they have a date come over. So.
Do you cover him up in the blankets so it's like a mound?
Nice, that's good.
I like to just stick him under the bed usually. Try to make sure they're hiding him, but they did a bad job. Yeah.
Their dates end up going for Carlos instead of them once they meet Carlos.
Carlos is charismatic.
They're usually they tell them to leave, but Carlos stays.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect
choice.
Well, next week we'll have Carlos as our guest here on the Animated Success Stories. So join us then when we interview Carlos and his rise to fame as an animation executive producer of the show Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Just kidding.
I have a crotch.
Oh, very nice. Anatomically correct.
Wondering.
Well, thanks again, Reid. Thanks for joining us, man. We're gonna sign off. We're gonna end the live feed, but you can hang out for a little bit.
Before we end it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, please.
Yeah.
We all
Thanks,
know.
Sabrina.
Yeah. Do two of those things. No, I'm joking. Do your favorite.
Also,
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, dude. No worries. Thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
we're going to be having a lot of videos coming out on the channel pretty soon. So everyone should look forward to that.
Cool. What videos?
We're putting out a lot of cut downs of our podcasts. So they're going to be so we're going to have videos for days coming out with cut down by topics. It's going to be great. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, all different sizes.
I'm an idea with the group that might be a thing later down the line, but we're gonna also probably try to take our channel into another direction as well while still doing this. But that's I mentioned it with you guys before. I don't think you remember, but we'll talk about it again.
Okay.
People are listening. Stay tuned for this juicy information coming up in a future video, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes. And we may be making a Discord for our fans shortly in the future. So be on the lookout for a Discord announcement.
Oh, I'm too old for this shit. I don't understand any of it.
Yeah. Whoosh.
All this stuff.
But I think that's about it for everything. I can end the feed.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you guys next time in the Ask. Thanks for being here, Reid. We appreciate it.